Does your bed look like this? We'll show you how to refurbish one for under $1,500. Plus, our C10 is back for custom metal fab, a fresh interior, and exhaust cutouts. That's all today on Truck Tech.
We've got our 71 C10 back in the shop, and we're making progress every single day. We've got the LT1 installed in the frame rails. It's wired up and sitting pretty. The cab's back on the frame, and it's sitting on airbags down to the ground.
And I've started some of the paint work. Now, last time you guys saw this truck, I showed a simple two-stage paint job on the firewall and have since jammed out the cab and sprayed the dash in the same flame red. And that's all before the truck gets brand new interior today. Well, what do you think of the color?
You know, I like the color a lot, but I'm still not so sure on the name. I mean, red, really?
Yeah, well, for the name Flame Red, it's about as orange as you can get, but especially when you compare these two side by side, that's so deep of a red that
there is a lot of contrast there, yeah. Well, either way, I really like the color. I think the truck's gonna look awesome when it's done. And you guys remember that old rusted out bed floor we found when we tore the truck down? Well, today I'm gonna show you how to fix that. Now, for less than $1,500, we'll get a brand new bed floor in, new header panel, and we'll throw a DIY bed liner on there to protect that new investment.
But before we get to all that, we'll go back here and throw some sparks.
Watch out for that gas tank.
Yeah, I'm glad it's not there anymore. The first thing to do is to get rid of this old fuel filler rubber and get down to bare clean metal. I'm doing this by using an angle grinder with a 3-inch 36 grit roll-off. Next, using a piece of chipboard and a fine tip Sharpie, I can trace out the fuel hole. Chipboard is perfect for making templates like this. It takes shape easily and is very easy to work with. Now, you can normally order it on the internet, and it's always good to have around the shop. Now we can take the cutout piece and transfer it to 20 gauge steel. Let's see, let's go in a corner. I'll make cuts on the bandsaw, then I'll fine tune it with a belt sander. Back at the truck, I can start fitting the metal to the filler hole. Pretty darn close right there. Keep in mind, this 20 gauge bends very easily, and the bend we need is right here on the truck. So take advantage of that and make your bend using the truck as a guide. Now that I'm happy with the fitment, we can burn it in using tack welds bouncing around on the panel, giving it time to cool between welds. Then I can grind it down with an angle grinder, and it's ready for filler work. Now, this custom touch only took about 40 minutes to do. All shaven.
The interior of our C10 is in desperate need of some attention. The previous owner tried to make his own door panels. He sewed together some black and red vinyl in a flame pattern over a plywood backing. And as much as we like the look, well, it doesn't really match with anything we have planned for the rest of the truck. So they gotta go. And we went to year one to start over, and we grabbed some OE replacement door panels. They're made from black embossed vinyl with this intricate scroll work on the bottom and sides, as well as this wood grain inlay up top. But my favorite part about these door panels is they're made from vacuum formed ABS plastic, and they hold their shape much better than the fiberboard backed originals. We also picked up a couple of accessories to finish the installation of the door panels, like the window cranks, door handles, and even some armrest. To complete the installation up front, we grabbed a new dash pad, and to keep our feet nice and cozy, we grabbed an 80/20 loop carpet. And that's where we're going to start our installation. Because we converted to a manual transmission,
it looks better already,
and had to use the larger factory trans tunnel, we ordered our carpet for a 4-wheel drive application. It fits perfectly with a taller floor profile. Once the carpet is centered, we'll use a razor blade to make the first hole for the shifter. After that, we'll cut holes for things like seat belts, the seat mounts, and this hole in the floor for the engine control module harness to pass through. Next up are the door panels. We'll start by mounting the chrome retaining trim up top with the provided hardware. On the bottom of the door, there are normally some threaded bosses welded to the metal. But over the years, ours have broken off, and we need to make our own holes. Use some masking tape and a Sharpie to mark where the holes will go in all 4 locations. Mount the door panel and center it front to back. Use an 1/8" bit to drill a hole through the door panel and the door at the same time, and install the screw. Once all 4 holes are drilled, remove the panel and take off the tape, then install the panel for good. Next up, I'll install the armrest.
Looks better already.
Those are held on with 2 screws. And before I install the window crank, I'll roll the window all the way up and line up the handle so it points up, giving maximum leg room. Then the door handle goes on. And the interior is already looking a lot better. The dash pad looks great and installs quickly with nuts from the backside and screws out front. We'll install our year 1 headliner without the chrome trim for a clean look by gluing it to the ceiling. These adjustable hood props will hold it temporarily in place until the glue dries.
Later, we'll tell you how to place a bid on our F100 hot rod truck.
When we picked up our C10 project, we did a preliminary inspection for rust, as you always do. So we peeked our heads underneath the bed to see what we could find. And for the most part from below, it actually looked pretty solid. But when we tore the truck down and removed the plastic bed liner, well, we were in for a bit of a surprise. This bed floor was trashed. Now, why did we miss such an obvious problem when it looked so fine underneath? Well, I guess that just goes to show you always want to pull a bed liner out. But one thing you notice, this rust is in lines straight across, and directly underneath are some bed supports. Now what's happened is the bed supports cause a natural place for dirt and moisture to collect. The dirt and moisture start causing rust, and it just slowly eats itself away. And before you know it, well, you've got that. So now that we're in this mess, how do we get out of it? Well, as always, there's a couple different options. We could cut some squares out, we could make a patch and weld this all together, but that's a ton of time. You know, we could take the easy way out and just bedline over it and stuff some foam or newspaper in there, but that's just not what we do. So we went to LMC, we grabbed a new bed floor, and we're actually going to disassemble this bed and bolt it all back together with a brand new sheet metal. We'll start by removing the tailgate. The fasteners for the bed side are removed from underneath, on the inside edge of the wheel well, and up the front edge by the header panel. It's a good idea to hang on to these bolts so they can be reused. An overnight soak in Evapo-Rust rust remover will clean them up. Next, the stock wheel wells have to go. Many of the original carriage bolts are rusted, and the square heads of the bolts spin so the nut won't loosen. While you could cut these off underneath, a cleaner way is to grind the head of the bolt down until you start to see the outline of the square shoulder. Then, a quick hit with a punch will get the remainder of the bolt out of the way. With the driver's bedside removed, we can discard the old rusted bed floor and swap it with a new one. Thanks, man.
No problem.
Appreciate it. Because we'll be coating the inside of the bed, there are a few spots that'll be easier to prep with the bed sides removed. I use a wire wheel to remove the bulk of the surface rust along the seam lines, and a DA with 80 grit to sand the painted areas inside the bed. I'll then wipe down the areas with some prep spray and get ready to hit them with some Dupli-Color bed coating. Well, it's been a lot of dirty work, but we've got our bed 100% torn down, and that rusty bed floor is out of here. We're ready to start reassembly. We also picked up a new header panel from LMC because our old one was pretty well dented up, and we've come this far, so why not? It took a little bit extra time, but we prepped and coated the insides of these bed panels. All these areas would be very difficult to access once the bed is fully put together. So that just goes to show, if you plan your project thoroughly from start to finish, you can save yourself a lot of hassle in the long run. Bumpus! We bought this header panel, a new bed floor, and tailgate from LMC Truck. They're OE quality stamped from 18 gauge steel and licensed by GM Restoration Parts. They'll all bolt on just like the original pieces, and the time we saved by not having to body work our bed was well worth it. Well, we've got our bed 100% bolted together, and let me tell you what, it's a night and day difference over that old rusted bent up sheet metal. It cost us about $1,500 in parts, but all said, it's a whole lot easier than trying to weld in patches over that old rusted metal. Now I have to prepare the surface of this new sheet metal for the coating that we have yet to come. So I've got a DA and some 180 grit paper and some red scuff pads for the hard to reach areas. Got a little bit of work ahead of me.
Next, a custom touch to make your exhaust flow.
We're back on Truck Tech. Now, while LT puts another coat of spray-on bed liner in our C10's box, I'm going to address these gauges. Now, this stock cluster, it's in pretty decent shape, but after looking at the backside, well, somebody's been in here. I don't know what the world they were trying to do, but it's a mess. Now, although the tack probably worked, it's kind of hard to justify the amount of time it would take to go back and restore all these gauges and make sure they work properly. So the best option for us was to go back to year one and pick up a new gauge set. Now, since we like the stock look so much, we went back with the black and chrome cluster. And we have all the necessary gauges to make sure that our engine is running safely, along with speedometer, tack, and fuel gauge. With everything hooked up, just a few screws hold the gauges in place. Now, they look clean up against our new satin paint.
What do you think, man? Get the bed all painted up? I think it looks pretty good.
It's looking good, man. It's getting there.
Hey, at least it's all one color now, right?
Get it on the truck and try to finish that exhaust up.
Grab that thing for me.
Yeah, I guess I'll help you.
Do your side. Still good?
Yep.
Yeah, this sure beats using a cherry picker.
We'll get the truck up in the air. And after a little discussion, we're going to cut a notch in the bed for our side exit exhaust, as opposed to a hole. This way, the bed will be much easier to remove later on. A little flames help with our inspiration. I'll tape off my cut marks. That'll act as a guide. 2 minutes later, with a cutoff wheel, we can check the fitment. I like that. It'll look good.
You know, it's important to do these two operations at the same time when you're doing anything custom like this, because you can't finalize one until they're both exactly where you need them to be. So if I welded this exhaust in and Jeremy cut the hole just a little bit off, well, he'd be mad at me and that wouldn't work. So he's going to get the hole finalized and I'll get the pipe finalized before we do any welding. And speaking of welding, what are you going to weld?
Yeah, I think I'm going to do a little more work. Now, we could go ahead and finish this out, paint it, and it'd look good, it'd work. But to me, that's an unfinished edge, so I'll show you what we're going to do. I'll put a 3-inch exhaust pipe in the vise. Then take some 3/16 steel rod and use the radius to make the bend around the pipe. Back at the truck, I'll use my angle grinder to get down to bare metal, so I have a clean surface to weld to. A pair of vice grips holds the rod in place. This is just one of those little custom touches you can do to your truck that your buddies at the Show and Shine will notice. I start in the center and bend the rod as I go. Now, the reason I didn't bend it completely to shape off the truck is it would have taken way longer. Plus, the weld actually heats up the rod, making it easier to manipulate. Now that it's fully welded, I can cut off the excess rod and start grinding my welds with 36 grit on a grinder and a die grinder with a carbide bit.
Well, man, that looks pretty good. Let's get this tip on and marked.
All right.
And then we can weld it. This is going to be tricky, just so you know. Get everything lined up. Dang, that looks good.
Next, Mecum Auctions expert John Craman assesses our Ford.
Kind of that grayish brown wood slide.
Now, we want to take the time to thank all you guys for the positive comments about our signature project this season, our 1955 Ford F100. We have put a ton of work and effort into it so far, and we're not done yet.
But we are nearing the finish line, and as a lot of you guys know, putting that last nut and bolt into your project is something, well, it can't get here quick enough.
But that begs the question, what do we do with all these projects once we're done with them? The first thing we do is get them out the door. And here on Truck Tech, that means pavement pounding payoffs, smoking some tires, even some hot laps around the drag strip or road course.
For our extreme off-road buddies, it means sometimes trying to break what was just built. But what about after the show is done? Well, that's the question we get asked the most.
Honestly, most of the time we just sell these projects like you guys do at home when you're done with them.
Or we part them out and we take the cash and buy more old junk so we can bring it back to life again.
But no one would part out a classic ride like our Ford. Which begs the question, where do you sell a truck like this? You could put a for sale sign in the window at your local show and shine.
Or you could open it up to millions on TV and bring it to a Mecum Auction.
71 Hemi Cuda 4-speed.
It's the world's largest collector car auction company, handling over 15,000 vehicles annually. John Cramen is their consignment director / on-air commentator, whose job is to make sure the right car enters the right auction at the right time.
We answer a lot of questions and provide a lot of information to our potential consigners, but it always boils down to the most important. What's my car gonna bring?
Hey, John.
Hey.
Thanks for coming in, man.
How are you?
Thanks for having me.
Well, we want to know what our truck's gonna bring. So we asked John to come down and take a look at the 55 and get his take on our resto mod.
Fit and finish on this truck is really, really exceptional.
John's a walking, talking auto encyclopedia, and he's seen just about everything come across the block, including hot rod trucks like ours.
What is going to put this truck, I think, is going to give it a little bit of extra appeal is the fact that, generally speaking, the EcoBoost engines have been very well regarded and doing quite well in the Ford GT. It's a different platform than this, but doing quite well, and that has put the EcoBoost V6 on the map.
Absolutely.
Great choice for a power plant. You know, one thing, taking a walk around the truck, it really is the perfect blend of, you know, maintaining the integrity of these mid-50s Ford trucks, which have always been really popular, but kind of keeping that original spirit intact, putting your own touches in it, but going totally state-of-the-art from the engine to the transmission to the rear end, chassis, brakes, suspension, all of that stuff. That brings it up into the new era and probably is not only going to appeal to the old school buyer looking for a great truck, but maybe some younger guys too are going to get into all of that high-tech stuff as well.
Well, I guess that's the million-dollar question then, John. What do you think our truck's worth?
Yeah, you know, I would say if I had to put a range on this truck, pre-auction estimate range, I would say probably somewhere in the $40,000 to $50,000 range ought to be somewhat in line.
I'm pretty close with you, John. That's really what I thought it was worth. I was thinking the 40-ish range would be pretty good. You know, you obviously could not build the truck for that, but you know, we know what the trucks resell for, and I think that would be a good range for it, and I think that would buy us what we want to have next.
Yeah, you know, from what I've seen watching the auctions and things, of course it depends on who's in the room. You know, we could have a couple of guys in the room who really want it, and the price could go even higher.
But you know, if me and you start bidding against each other on this truck,
Hey, you might have to be bidding against me too. I'm not kidding, guys. This is really one well-crafted truck.
Thanks,
with a
man.
lot of appeal.
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming down.
Oh man, it's been my pleasure. Anytime to
Thank you so
come
much,
look at
John.
a great car or just sign our truck, sign me up anytime.
Thanks, man.
So there you go. After a few more things to button up, our F100 will be headed off to Mecum Auctions, left to the highest bidder.
Keeping up with the power demands of today's modern trucks and SUVs is this yellow top AGM battery from Optima. If your truck sports a winch, high-end audio, or other power-thirsty accessories, Optima batteries deliver ultimate cranking power and deep cycle capabilities over the typical lead-acid battery. They're maintenance-free, provide 3 times longer life, and plus, you can mount them in just about any position. To learn more, check out OptimaBatteries.com.
Anyone with a truck or SUV with higher miles has probably experienced a worn front end. And if you've ever tried to press out those bushings or ball joints, you know what a pain in the butt it can be. Rock Auto can save you time with their Moog Problem Solver front end kits. This one comes with upper and lower control arms with new bushings and ball joints already installed. Plus, they're painted black for a lifetime of good looks. This one comes with new inner and outer tie rod ends to completely redo your front end. They're available at rockauto.com.
You probably don't give a lot of thought to how strong your trailer hitch is until something bad happens. Well, Reese has figured out a way to make hitch ball mounts even stronger. This is their Towpower line of carbon-forged, no-weld ball mounts. They feature uprated towing capacity and patented one-wrench tightening system. And the hex shape of their Interlock hitch ball lines up with the mount for one-hand tightening. And a solid piece of forged steel means there's no welds to break. Reese hitches are available at leading national retailers. Hey, thanks for watching Truck Tech. See you next time.